the Baptist church or the church that needed help? And
the old Shiloh Baptist Church. Father Martin. And do you want me to just start at the beginning?
Yeah, just like what you told me in the car, I think would be great.
Well, I worked at Salt Lake Mill and Lumber, and one day a young architect walked in with an old black minister. He came in, he said, "This Reverend Martin bought an old house on 4th East. They're going to remodel it into a small church. And I need some 2x10s, 12 feet long, with a rabbit, that's cut out, a rabbit 3/4 deep by 1.5 inches wide to slide some, I'm having some stained glass made." Well, we walked down the back, and I'll be darned if we didn't happen to have them. And he got them, and as we're walking back, he said, "Be easy on him. He is the best old guy you ever met, but he's working on nothing. And he's got a little congregation of a little over 100 people, of which more than 90 of them are women. So just take it easy with him." Well, that must have been on a Tuesday, because that night I met with my counselors. I was stake president. And I met with my counselors, and I said, "I've had an interesting experience today, and I've been thinking about it." I said, "What would you think? Merrill Wood was a go-go guy, and Milt Thacker, the other counselor, was a assistant professor and at the University of Utah. He was a social worker guy." And I said, told him the story. I said, we haven't had any, by now this in the 1960s, see? The old work projects on steak farms and everything was gone. I said, we haven't had a project. How'd it be if our stake high priest decided to help that old guy? Be a lot of work doing on it. We sat and talked about it, and Milt Thacker said, "Well, we could maybe give him 200 hours of labor." And Merrill Wood said, 200 hours? 500 hours? 2,000 hours? He said, with all those high priests in our stake, let's say 2,000 hours. And then before he's through, add $2,000. So we called the bishops together for a bishop meeting. Well, it wasn't a bishop meeting, but we brought it up. And we said, this would be a separate program and not church-sponsored, but quorum agitated or organized. But the brethren are all, nobody's required to do anything. We do not want it to affect tithing or anything. We just want to give, if people want to give something. Well, we made the commitment to that old church for 2,000 hours and $2,000. And every Saturday, and then after the bishops, we called all the high priest presidents in together. And they were just enthusiastic about it. You'd be surprised how enthusiastic that bunch of high priest presidents, the group leaders in the different wards, accepted the idea of something to do. And so we went ahead on over there. We tore down wallpaper, we pulled up floors, we painted, we fixed plumbing. Carl Rocher was a concrete man, and he was in the German-speaking ward. He later became the bishop over there, but at that time he was not. And Carl, old Brother Martin, said, what I needs is a baptism font. Right up here in front, under the front pulpit. We'll fix this front pulpit so we can slide it back, and underneath will be the baptismal font. Now, I need a baptismal font right there. And he said, you know, this is the Baptist church. We immerse them and submerge them. So it's got to be big enough for somebody to stand that does the immersion and somebody that's laying down when they're submerged. So Carl took some measurements, one thing, another. You ought to see the classy little baptismal font he made for that fellow. And he had been doing some backyard Swiss pools, just little pools for people. And it turned out a guy had a light that he didn't use, and he did that thing with a little set of steps that come down onto it, and then he had this little light that he built into the bottom, and then at the last minute he had one, and the guy said, I've got this heater I used to heat my pool with. Now it's all done over there when the water comes out. Could you use it? Carl said, you bet I can. So he brought that over, and he said, now when you're going to baptize it, you just throw this into the pool and leave it until the water's as warm as you want it to be. Take it out, turn it off, it's just done. So that's the way it was. And we did that. There was a man named, the deuce his name. He was the mortician at Lorcan, and he lived upstairs, and he did portraiture paintings. And you ought to see him. When he found out about Reverend Martin, he said, you know, he was reverend in a little church up in Ogden when I was with Lorcan up there. And he's just the sweetest, most wonderful man and does a lot of good work. He painted a portrait of Jesus 3 feet wide but 5 foot high. Just a beautiful portrait from the waist up, and had it, and then he had it all framed in a classy frame. Just Orson Folger, his name was, and he had come and hung that right on the wall back at the pulpit. And we had bought the old green dragon. You've heard about that. That was an old Baptist church that we bought in about 1955, and it had. We changed it into a stake center for athletics, basketball, and of course it had all those old pulpits, old pews in it, old benches. And I don't know where they'd been in the meantime, but Herb Blue was a building contractor, and he come and hauled a whole load of those benches over. He'd gone and got them, and what he would do, he'd take a hacksaw, or a, what do you call a power saw?
Well,
anyway, just take a power saw, and he would measure the aisle down the middle of the chapel was not in the middle. It was to accommodate the benches, because Herb would cut one end off and put that against the wall, and then he had to come out here and he had the finished end out here. And he just had that many of them down there, and then over here they were a little shorter because you had to do it where you had the, you know, he fixed all that up. Now we had a floor problem. Alice had just had that whole front room done, and see that green shag rug? It was all done in a beige carpeting, and it was rolled up, sitting in my old garage. we took that thing over and carpeted that entire thing with Alice's old beige rug. So we did all that, and we felt very good about it. And we painted the place and just did everything we could to help him. I don't